You guys, it appears that Steve and Marjorie Harvey's relationship has reached a breaking point. Rumor has it that Marjorie cheated on Steve not once, not twice, but twice with two different men. As if that weren't messy enough, Twitter is rife with rumors that she is also filing for divorce and asking for half of everything that Steve has. Moreover, allegedly, Marjorie's daughter Lori is defending Marjorie and thinks Steve is being a bad Marjorie. He has been having extramarital affairs with other men, including Steve's security and their personal chef. This is absurd given Steve is reputed to be a relationship-oriented. Guru and Steve recently spoke to People magazine and admitted that Marjorie changed his entire perspective on marriages and relationships. He said, "Marjorie changed the way I existed. I'd never been in a healthy adult relationship. I'd never been loyal. I'd never been fully respected child." Not this man admitting to being a long-term chief anyways. The reason why people have also had suspicions about their marriage is because of their very interesting past and how their relationship progressed. So Steve and Marjorie first met in the 1990s, and it was love at first sight for them. Well, at least it was for Steve, because we don't really know how Marjorie felt about him. At the time, Marjorie attended a comedy club where Steve was performing, and he immediately put moves on her. They kept in touch for a couple of weeks, but Marjorie ultimately decided not to go ahead with the relationship because Steve was a struggling comedian who was still broke at the time. He was still trying to get his coins right. And Marjorie was not about to stick with struggle love, especially not after she had been involved with not one, but two drug dealers who had spent a lot of money on her, so she was not about to stick with a man who didn't have the bag. Yet the wild thing about this is that both Steve and Marjorie were married at the time. But it wasn't their marriages that stopped them, I guess. Steve wasn't lying when he said that he was never loyal. What made this even worse is that the woman Steve was married to at the time, Mary Shackelford, had been super supportive of Steve and his career. I mean, this woman literally put her entire life savings into Steve and helped him set up his first comedy club. And he later dumped her when he got the bag. And then Marjorie, and speaking of Marjorie, did y'all know that Steve is her third husband? Like I said, before she had been married to two different drug dealers before Steve. So it wasn't surprising that she didn't want him. When he was broke, her first husband was a man named Jim Townsend, and he is the father of Marjorie's first two kids. Unfortunately, he got busted while trying to buy 40 kilos of nose candy. When Marjorie was pregnant with their second child, Jason, at the time the authorities suspected that Marjorie was involved with Jim's business. But she denied it, and Jim also took a plea deal to get her off the hook. She divorced Jim not long after he was sentenced to prison. And she got married to another dealer named Darnell Woods, who is believed to be Lori's biological father. But then Darnell also got busted by the authorities. And just like she did with Jim, Marjorie divorced him after he went to prison. So the fact that Marjorie has a shady history with two drug dealers and then refused to date Steve while he was broke, and then started an affair with him while he was still married, has led people to have a not-so-great perception of her. And for the longest time, many people low-key believe that she is only with Steve for his money, and that if he wasn't the millionaire he is today, she wouldn't have even given him a second chance like she did. But as we know, Steve was more than happy when she gave him the green light the second time around. And they started dating. They ended up getting married in 2007. And Steve has made it more than clear that he is obsessed with her and spends a lot of money on her name, something you think Steve Harvey spends a lot of money on wife apart from the fact that he accepted her for who she was. Steve also legally adopted her children and gave them his last name. Marjorie did this because she wanted to shield her children from their biological father's illegal activities and the fact that both of their fathers were in prison. She wanted to give her children a fresh start, and the fact that she could provide them with a millionaire father made it even better. People have noted that it's pretty obvious that he loves Lori more than his own biological children. And on one of our yearly father-daughter outings to my favorite Japanese restaurant, you just started talking to me about guys. And then you just told me that you always supported me. And you'd always be there for me no matter what. You loved me unconditionally. So yes, Steve adores Marjorie. He pays for her opulent lifestyle and that of her children. He gave her children his children, and you want to know what's interesting about this situation is that the person that she allegedly cheated with is Steve's bodyguard, who is actually the same person that linked her to Steve. After so many years, y'all know how I said that Steve and Marjorie first met in the 90s. But they parted ways. Well, Steve himself said that his bodyguard was the one who linked her to Steve after so many years. You guys can only imagine how people felt when they learned that the same man who linked Marjorie and Steve after 10 years is the same man that Marjorie was having the affair with. And not only did Marjorie allegedly cheat on Steve, but rumor has it that she also had an affair with another man. Marjorie, now before you go and do something stupid and marry another woman, I'm calling her, it was like being reborn. I messed up so many times in my life. She made all the difference. Applause. Even Marjorie addressed these on her Instagram, writing, "My husband, and I don't usually stop to address all of the foolishness and lies that have been spread about us. But to whom much is given, much is required." She added, "But that's not the end of the drama, because allegedly Marjorie's daughter Lori is hella mad as Steve for not defending Marjorie much faster, and for letting her get away with it." According to the insider, Lori believes Steve ought to have addressed the rumors as soon as they surfaced instead of delaying for days. Fans don't buy his denial and have commented that he hasn't clarified anything, according to the insider, who also stated that the allegations and how long it took them to answer them have generated a lot of friction in the family. Wendy Williams tried to do the same thing until she was unable to do it any longer. Do you guys believe Steve's denial, or do you think that he's just trying to save face? Also, what do you think about Lori's accusations that Steve set Marjorie up to get dragged? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay. Steve, just keep it real. You ain't the only one that this has happened to, and he's just embarrassed that it's out and in the open, and doesn't know how to. You guys, it appears that Steve and Marjorie Harvey's relationship has reached a breaking point. Rumor has it that Marjorie cheated on Steve not once, not twice, but twice with 2 different men. As if that weren't messy enough, Twitter is rife with rumors that she is also filing for divorce and asking for half of everything that Steve has. Moreover, allegedly, Marjorie's daughter Lori is defending Marjorie and thinks Steve is being a bad Marjorie. He has been having extramarital affairs with other men, including Steve's security and their personal chef. This is absurd given Steve is reputed to be a relationship-oriented. Guru and Steve recently spoke to People magazine and admitted that Marjorie changed his entire perspective on marriages and relationships. He said, "Marjorie changed the way I existed. I'd never been in a healthy adult relationship. I'd never been loyal. I'd never been fully respected child." Not this man admitting to being a long-term chief anyways. The reason why people have also had suspicions about their marriage is because of their very interesting